All righty, welcome into another episode of Getting Technical, brought to you by Better and Green. Uh, Wyatt, today we are back talking about some SEC basketball. No, this is not a football show. SEC is the power conference of college basketball this year. Wish they weren't in college football this year. Turns out. I guess they still have a place in sports here, but let's get right into it. Three ranked matchups, all SEC, like I mentioned. 11th ranked Texas A&M at 8th ranked Kentucky. 21st Ole Miss at 4th ranked Alabama. 15th Mississippi State at the number one team in the nation, Auburn. All games go at 7 o'clock Eastern tomorrow. So get your TVs ready. It's going to be one heck of a slate here. But let's start Texas A&M at Kentucky. Kentucky currently right around a 6.5 point favorite, over under 158.5. I'm going to throw it to you here first. Tough spread, tough game. Which way are you breaking this one down?
Yeah, this is a tough one. A&M's just coming off a loss against Alabama. Kentucky loss against Georgia, bad loss against Georgia about a week ago. Hard for me to figure this game out. I don't fully believe in Texas A&M. I do think Kentucky is a pretty solid team, even with a coaching change this year. So I'm going to look different than the game spread here, and I'm actually going to look at the total, which I don't ever love doing in college basketball, but I do love it for this side. Texas A&M, from my little research and my little diving in, really seems like they're a team that kind of plays to their opponent. If they're playing a team like Kentucky that's fast paced, high scoring, it looks like they tag right along. Or if they play a team that's a little lower scoring, a little slower, like a UCF or a Ohio State, it's a little more low scoring, more defensive game. But it just looks like they're kind of going to be the identity of a team that clones their opponent and just always stays in the close game. So I do kind of like them on the spread, but my favorite bet is going to be on the over of this game. I think they're going to play and match Kentucky's game speed and game style and high scoring offense. So I'm going to take the over here and trust that A&M can put up some points and keep track or keep pace with Kentucky and ultimately cover this game. But again, I like the over as my best play.
Yeah, I think I'm going to lean towards the road dog here with Texas A&M. It's not a play that I love really by any means here, but Texas A&M is off that loss, a close loss to Alabama, which I know you have Auburn ahead of them in the SEC. They've gotten ahead of, I believe Bama is now second ranked in the SEC after Tennessee's big loss, but um, you know, Bama is kind of the cream of the crop right now of the SEC over the last few seasons. Um, but I guess Kentucky is too with the just the name and the brand of Kentucky. But just a tough scheduling spot here for A&M with those two teams back to back, and I think they're going to try to salvage at least one victory, already having the loss to Alabama. Meanwhile, you have Kentucky with Bama on deck after this game, a Saturday game at home, hosting the fourth best team in the country. Again, the team that's kind of been the top dog of the SEC as of late. So I think that's just a touch of a look ahead spot for Kentucky. I know A&M is almost a top 10 team in the country here. Um, but off the win against Mississippi State, where they didn't blow them out and were able to rest, that came right down to the wire. Kentucky ended up winning that game 95-90 this past Saturday. Yeah, I think it's just kind of a bad spot here for Kentucky. I think A&M, one of the best rebounding teams in the country, is going to be able to clean up the glass well against Kentucky and ultimately have a shot at potentially winning this game late, if not keeping it within the 6.5. So kind of just think the 6.5 is too many points here. It's not a game I'm super excited about betting at this time. As of now, I'm going to pass on it, but my lean for the show is going to be A&M plus the points. Um, Same time here, 21st ranked Ole Miss heads to that fourth best team in the country, Alabama. Bama, nearly a double digit favorite. They're laying 9.5, over under 164, which feels a little low, believe it or not. But well, I'll throw it back over to you for this one. You're taking Alabama at home, or do you think Ole Miss is going to keep this one close?
Yeah, this is a tough one for me. I'm not super sold on Ole Miss. They just really haven't beaten anyone super impressive. They beat BYU, who had a coaching change in overtime. They lost to Purdue. Uh, really no good. Lost to Memphis by 17. They just came off a win at Arkansas. It's probably their best win of the year. They also just beat LSU, who's trash this year. So I'm just not super sold on their resume, whereas Alabama has a fantastic resume. I know they have 2 losses to Purdue and Oregon, but they also have some fantastic wins. So I do think Alabama's taking this game a little lightly. I know Ole Miss is a ranked team, but again, they're just don't have a great resume. And I'm worried Alabama might underestimate them a little bit, especially with Kentucky on deck, traveling to Kentucky, like you just mentioned here. So I'm going to take Ole Miss on a chance to upset them here. I kind of like them outright on the money line, but I'll happily take them for the show at the +9.5. I think it's way too many points. And again, I just don't know how serious Bama is going to take this team. Bama very up and down. Don't really know how much I trust them. Again, they have beaten some really solid teams. Beat Houston, beat Illinois, and then they go and lose to unranked Oregon. They beat North Carolina, who's trash. They beat Oklahoma, who is under or overrated. They beat Texas A&M. And then they lose to Purdue, who again is a ranked team, but just not super strong. So I don't know how much I trust their consistency. They are a very good team when they want to be. I do think they're going to overlook this game for that Saturday matchup at Kentucky, which is going to be a massive game, top 10 matchup. So I think that's has their main focus. I think it's a chance for Ole Miss to slip in here and cover and keep it close and potentially upset them here.
Yeah, like you said, Bama with Kentucky on deck, which we just talked about in the Kentucky preview. Um, I don't love Kentucky because I think, looking ahead to Bama. I do think Bama has a touch of a look ahead to Kentucky, but I actually think Bama's going to end up covering this game. And you kind of mentioned it right away. I'm just not sold on Ole Miss whatsoever. Um, yeah, I mean, I think the Georgia win was good. The Arkansas win, I think Arkansas is overrated because of Calipari there. Not super sold on them. They really have not beaten anybody. Their out of conference schedule was weak compared to Alabama. Just really not sold. And Bama, just the way they play, one of the best rebounding teams in the country, like A&M. Um, Fastest team in the country, best offensive team in the country. I mean, if they get running, if they're making their shots, you know, they're just tough to keep pace with. And I just don't think Ole Miss is going to be able to do that throughout the game. Even if there's a touch of a look ahead for Alabama, I just think they're going to outrun, outpace, out rebound, outscore Ole Miss in this one. So I think Bama wins this pretty comfortably. I think it's kind of a blowout here. Um, and just quick, while we're on Alabama, I think there could be some value on betting them to win the entire championship this year. Um, I mean, just a fantastic team. Like I said, if you fall behind against Alabama, like, good luck catching back up. And then I don't know if I've ever seen a college basketball schedule or a college basketball team this battle tested. First of all, the SEC obviously is the best conference in basketball. You look at their final 5 games of the year, 4 of their final 5 all against current top 10 opponents. It's Kentucky, Mississippi State, Tennessee, Florida, and Auburn. But you look at their out of conference, even their weaker out of conference. They played McNeese State, who is obviously made the tournament last year. They're at the top of their conference this year. Purdue, Illinois, Rutgers, Oregon, all from the Big Ten. Um, three of those teams are currently ranked. Played Houston, played North Carolina, Creighton. Really just cream of the crop out of conference schedule, and then fighting through the SEC as well. So yeah, I think Alabama, if they stay healthy, makes a deep run. They've been to the Final Four, been right around winning that championship. So I do think Bama, from a future standpoint, has quite a bit of value on them to go all the way this year. But to wrap it up here, Mississippi State at Auburn, 15th ranked Mississippi State against the current top team in the country. Auburn just a 7.5 point favorite at home here, over under 151.5. And I will throw it to you one last time here. What way are you breaking down Auburn and Mississippi State?
Yeah, I usually love fading the team that just hopped into that number 1 spot. Again, Tennessee with the loss, me and you both made some money on that, predicting them to lose that one game. Now Auburn, the new number 1. Again, I usually like fading them here, but Auburn is so damn good. I do think they're a unanimous number 1 team in the country. I'm guessing, and again, just guessing that the line's so low just because of Auburn's troubles in their last 2 games. squeaking past South Carolina by 3, beating Texas by 5. Again, not great opponents here. For example, this same South Carolina team, Mississippi State, beat by 35 points. I know Auburn traveled to South Carolina and Texas, two away games, but 2 close games. And I think maybe people are seeing that. And again, 35-point Mississippi State win, 3-point Auburn win. Maybe that's what's driving them to take Mississippi State, but I honestly can't see it. I'm not sold on Mississippi State at all. Really, no big wins for me from them. They lost to Butler, not ranked. They beat Pitt, who I don't think is very good, who was ranked at the time. They beat Memphis, pretty good win there at Memphis. That's a really good win, but I'm not super sold on their resume so far. And again, I'm very sold on Auburn. Also, Mississippi State coming off a loss on Saturday to Kentucky at home. So I think Auburn's going to win this game by double digits. I don't even think it's close. It's probably my favorite out of these 3 bets. And again, I am super high on Auburn, and I think it's a good spot to get them off of 2 shaky games on the road. Again, it's always hard to win on the road in any conference, let alone the SEC. So the fact that they did that and now, playing back at home, I like them to come to play and win this one pretty easily.
Yeah, I'm going to be right there with you on Auburn. Really the main reason here, kind of injured player theory. Johnny Broom, their stud forward, averages close to 18 points a game, out with that high ankle sprain, went down on Saturday. So they're going to be without him for a period of time, probably at least a month. I haven't really heard how long he'll be out. But that is the reason I think why this line is so less than what I expected. It looks like it actually initially opened up at 10.5 and it is down to 7.5. So money coming in on Mississippi State from what it looks like as of now. It is Monday night, so we still have 24 hours before. Actually, it's 7 o'clock, exactly 24 hours until tip-off of this game. But yeah, I think this team is the rightful number 1. I've kind of been waiting for Tennessee to lose so that Auburn could jump into that driver's seat of the rankings, because I do think they, as of right now, are probably the top team in basketball. Yeah, I think the line is just a little bit short here. I think the guys rally around Broom's injury and kind of step up and show a good effort here in this game. I would actually look for them to get caught in their next game against Georgia on the road. Georgia, a team that has looked really good this past week. Yeah, kind of just the same with Ole Miss. I'm just not super sold on Mississippi State this year. They've, like you kind of mentioned, played somewhat of a weak schedule up to this point. Yeah, I think Memphis is really their only solid game that they've really had here. So, I mean, they kept it close against Kentucky, but couldn't find a way to win it. Yeah, I just think Auburn's the much better team. It'll be interesting to see how they play without Broom, but I do think they rally around his injury. So, give me Auburn minus 7.5.
I like it.
Guys, other than that, a lot of great basketball on tonight. A lot more SEC matchups that aren't ranked. We have some solid Big Ten and Ohio State, Wisconsin are playing. Big East is a little bit down this year, but still some solid matchups. So, unfortunately, we don't have time to talk about them all, but those are the 3 biggest games on the board. We'll try to potentially do a live on Saturday, talk about Saturday slate, because that's another loaded day of college basketball. And until then, be sure to check out Better and Green. Our channel. We have the divisional round NFL playoffs coming out. We have a college football national championship preview that we will be coming out with this week as well. MMA UFC is back. Bobby and Ben breaking it down in Tapping Vegas. I know they were on like a 4-week hiatus or something for UFC, but they are back in action. And yeah, all the sports are kind of rolling right now. So be sure to check us out at Better and Green for all your sports needs. But guys, until then, enjoy the games and good luck.
You better start listening to the Better and Green podcast. You will not regret it. Trust me, trust me, trust me. And hey, I'm Dean Blandino.
Welcome, welcome, welcome to Better and Green, eh? To Better and Green, eh? To Better and Green, eh? Listen in and cash out. That's what it's all about. Come on, let's make cash now. We always on spot and we cover old spot from the bottom to the top. Hey, shout out to Ethan, shout out to Wyatt, shout out to Ben. Welcome, welcome to our podcast. Better in Green.